The following presentation will analyse how Gillian Flynn constructs a grotesque tone through the use of language in her novel Sharp Objects. To defile something is to damage the purity or appearance of it, to take something ordinary or even beautiful and taint it. Defilement can be applied to a text through choices in language and prose to great effect. When the grotesque or sickly features of characters and the environment are emphasized, or at least mentioned, an atmospheric tone may be constructed successfully, transforming an ordinary, underwhelming scene into a disturbing, nightmarish moment. By utilizing uncomfortable, jarring, lewd, or even gross adjectives, and shining a spotlight on things which are unpleasant, a grotesque, sickly, dark atmosphere may be constructed. In most texts, grotesque and disgusting details are not illuminated, and words may be chosen carefully, so as to not put the reader off of the text. Defiling a text with words and description in this manner ensures that readers always have a sense of unease when reading. They often feel disgusted, disturbed, and wary of even the most mundane characters. For obvious reason, achieving this reaction in a crime, horror, or gothic novel is ideal. By exposing the ugly details, an author may shine a light on the impurity and darkness of the diegesis, and perhaps even reality. Sharp Objects is Gillian Flynn's first published novel, published in 2007. It won 2 of its 3 nominated awards and received generally positive feedback, despite the dark nature of its content. Interestingly enough, Gillian Flynn has stated that the novel has a moist gothic tone. While out of context, this phrase may seem absurd, it is certainly clear why she has described it as such upon reading the novel. The narrative evokes this ever-present feeling of disgusting, sexual, sticky darkness. This novel deals with themes such as the loss of innocence, impurity, and the sexualization of youths. These themes are reflected both within the narrative and within the technical constructs of the text itself. By defiling the very prose of the narrative with ugly adjectives, Flynn injects the dark, grotesque impureness of the story into the story itself. Flynn uses this technique to emphasize the overarching theme of the novel that even the sweetest things are tainted in some way. Flynn overshares details and excessively describes scenes and characters in a grotesque nature, even a sexual nature, to manipulate how the reader feels about a character, scene, or even the novel. Camille Preaker's perspective is a very interesting one. The language she uses is blunt and gritty. Camille never fails to notice the ugly or sexual details of a scene or character. It is not that Camille sees things that are not present, it is that she chooses to acknowledge them. The ugly bits are undeniably present within reality, but while most people choose to ignore them, Camille describes them in a blunt, matter-of-fact way that often makes readers feel uncomfortable. Furthermore, Camille's attitude towards femininity and sweetness is an intriguing one. Anything girly, pink, and sweet within the novel often carries with it connotations of sticky, sexual, disgusting impurity, like overripe fruit. This attitude is so present that the mere mention of girlishness within the novel puts the reader on edge. An example of a character framed in this particular light is that of Camille's tween half-sister, Amma. Consider the following excerpts and the image they construct of Amma. Her flushed face had the roundness of a girl barely in her teens, and her hair was parted in ribbons, but her breasts, which she aimed proudly outwards, were those of a grown woman. Mini skirts with tiny tees exposing flat baby tummies, and except for the girl Jode's, whose bosom was too high and stiff to be anything but padding, the rest had breasts, full and wobbly and way overripe. All those milk-fed, hog-fed, beef-fed early years. All those extra hormones we put in our livestock. We'll be seeing toddlers with tits before long. She was sucking on an oversized blow pop. She took her wet sucker out and twirled it in my hair. Dick, when are you going to take us for a ride? Amma asked, plopping down in the dirt to reveal a glimpse of her panties. I could feel her strawberry breath fill the hollow of my neck. Plucked out 4 beers, which she held against her wet bosom, pretending to have a hard time juggling them as she jiggled past an appreciative group of boys. From this small sample of description and dialogue, a distinct pattern may be identified. Breasts, woman, miniskirt, exposing, bosom, breasts, full, wobbly, overwrap, livestock, tits, sucking, oversized, blow pop, wet, sucker, ride, plopping, reveal, panties, strawberry, jiggled. These are the words used to describe a 13-year-old girl. This is not typical or appropriate language to describe a young girl with. Immediately, the sexualization of such a young character is disturbing, sickening. The words used are used so frequently that you begin to see Alma as a kind of Lolita character. She seems sexual, confident, seductive, unnatural. It is subtly unsettling. Why is such a young girl trying to seduce older audiences? Why is she framing herself in this way? Inappropriate, unsettling language is used to describe all scenes in a novel. Through the consistent application of the disturbing language, Flynn has constructed a dark and unshakable tone for the entire novel. Consider how the following language choices influence how you see an object or character, how they make you feel. My sweater was new, stinging, red and ugly. This is not a typical description of a sweater. A stinging and ugly sweater seems much harsher than a simple red sweater. Just this simple choice alone, in the opening pages of the novel, aids in constructing a harsher, grittier atmosphere. I wadded a flimsy motel towel over the grate in the shower floor, aimed the nozzle at the wall, and sat in 3 inches of water that pooled in the stall. Someone else's pubic hair floated by. Once again, this is not a typical topic of discussion. By bluntly pointing at disgusting details like someone else's pubic hair, Flynn grosses readers out with the unexpected. Those kids, cocky, pissed, and smelling of sweat. The words cocky, pissed, the mention of sweat, it's all disgusting. Ribbons of moist pink flesh dangled from strings, waiting to be dried into jerky. Again, emphasizing the moistness, the pinkness, the fleshiness of the dangling strings is a grotesque angle to take on meat waiting to be dried into jerky. When he looked up at me, a rubbery string of yolk swung like spit past his chin. Once again, pointing out ugly details of reality, making a character seem grosser than they probably are. He wouldn't kiss me until I serviced him. Then he wouldn't kiss me because of where my mouth had been. Young love. This is a very blunt, oversharing comment. Not typically discussed in standard novels. Typically looked over. As can be seen, the repeated use of grotesque language constructs an uncomfortable tone, which never allows readers to feel quite at ease. At every moment that a reader begins to feel comfortable with the text, Flynn injects a little bit of darkness, a little bit of creepiness, a little bit of grossness. It's as simple as taking an object or a character and describing them with words that hold sexual or dark meaning, like rusted, bloody, moist, pink, fleshy. These words unsettle people. Technique taps into an almost instinctive part of the human consciousness. It evokes a prude in everyone, the need to shrink away from that which is inappropriate, uncomfortable, disturbing. It is a very visual style, constructing a moist gothic tone within the reader's mind. It encourages readers to think thoughts that they would not ordinarily think, to enter the mind of someone who sees the world in a dark way. You may utilize this technique in a few different ways, depending on the consistency of tone you are going for. If you wish to make the entire novel unsettling, then use grotesque adjectives frequently. Always paint objects in an unsettling light. But ensure you are subtle. Avoid dramatic words like terrifying, murderous. These tell the readers how to feel, rather than make them feel. Instead, favor gross, gritty words like rusted, damp, bent, broken, sickening, spurning, sweet, crusty, moist. These words are far more visually stimulating. Most of them carry with them the unclean or dark connotations, so the reader will inject their own feelings of discomfort into the narrative. This technique can also be used to foreground a particular place, object, or character. By writing a story with ordinary or even pleasant language, then implementing darker, more twisted language at specific moments. These moments will have far greater impact upon the reader. The foregrounded object will always unsettle the reader due to the innocent nature of the rest of the text. To further push the boundaries and to truly disturb readers as Flynn has, you may apply inappropriate language to things which ought not to be inappropriate, as Flynn did with armor. There is something very sinister about a sexualized child. It is unsettling to read a child depicted in that manner, and it's even more unsettling to read that the child is well aware of it and even proud of it, as Armor was. This use of language can paint characters, objects, and places in a very unsettling manner. The following excerpt is an example of text that utilizes this technique in order to construct a grotesque tone. The bathroom was slimy and damp, lit by a bare flickering bulb on the ceiling. 3 crude toilet stalls sat huddled before a single chipped porcelain sink. I made my way towards it, wanting nothing more than to splash a little water on my face. The basin had clearly once been white, but years of vomit, spit, makeup, and neglect had stained it slimy yellow. The rusted tap screeched defiantly when I twisted its neck, warm liquid gushing from its mouth. The water ran into the basin and pooled at the drain, which was clogged with gunky tissue and moist clumps of black hair. I cupped my hands directly under the nozzle of the tap, allowed the water to pool, and slapped it across my cold cheeks. Looking up at my reflection, I saw that the mascara I had applied hours ago wasn't budging, and remained clumped around my wet eyelashes. Aldi weren't messing around when they said their mascara was waterproof. I turned off the tap and stared at my pale smudge of a reflection, sniffling back the mucus that was beginning to leak out of my nose. Splashing sounds came from one of the stalls behind me, like someone emptying a bucket of sludge in the toilet. The burning scent of bile filled my nostrils. After a brief but wet coughing fit, a young blonde girl pulled open the door and emerged from the stall. She wore a tight black dress which strained over bulging breasts. The dress ended centimeters from her crotch, and the hem had been dipped in something crusty and white. Dragging her slim forearm across her mouth, she smeared lipstick and stick across her rosy cheeks. She didn't seem to realize she had done this, as she cast me a glowing smile. "Excuse me," she said. Her voice was high and sweet. Her breath smelled of rum, coke, and vomit. I removed myself from her path, leaned against a sticky tiled wall, allowing her to use the basin. She reached down her dress, into her bra, and pulled a shiny silver tube of lipstick out from under one of her breasts. She applied the cherry-coloured gloss to full pouting lips. In this example, I have implemented grotesque language to ensure that the bathroom is particularly unappealing. By using ugly words such as slimy, damp, gunky, and clumps, I have constructed a rather disgusting image of the bathroom. In a very similar manner to Flynn, I have used very descriptive language to ensure that the reader is placed within the environment, experiencing it, rather than simply viewing it externally. Once again, like Flynn, I have injected a very feminine, sweet, but repulsive character. The messy, unclean state of the girl in the stall is emphasized, and I have mentioned the risque nature of her outfit. Covered in vomit and other gross substances, she becomes quite off-putting rather than seductive. All of this combined aids in constructing a very grotesque atmosphere in the bathroom. When constructing a horror, crime, thriller, or gothic text, atmosphere is essential. Utilizing grotesque language such as this ensures that a disgusting, disturbing tone is constructed throughout the course of the novel. Any author can apply this to their text to ensure that readers are always unsettled.